Let me just check these. Right. Excusez-moi, so they say in French. Which one we're looking at? Is it that one? Excusez-moi. Yeah, it is that one. Right, yeah, wrong ones. Slightly late. I've been busy with something. So, and also I've got an important update that I'm going to give you in a moment once I've started. Before we go into your comments, and thank you to them all. Right. Interesting. Interesting. So, got an update that I want to share with you. Once we get to over 100 attendees, well, we're there now. Got an update from the bishop. He's well. All I can say is you're no longer getting the bishop's finger. Can't allow that anymore. I've had to pull him into line, if you know what I mean. Let's do that. Let me just indulge me for a second. Right. To say I'm fucked off at somebody is an understatement. But we will get to that tomorrow. Before I do kind of the usual introductions and the usual comments, I have to tell you this. The rumours are that Axel Ruda Cabana was transferred from Belmarsh to HMP Strangeways. And he's been given a beating in his cell today. Now, there is a voice note doing the rounds explaining what's happened, and seemingly Ruda Cabana's being given a prison justice. I'm not condoning that, and in no way can I condone violence. But I will tell you that it's going to fly around social media. No doubt the government won't pass comment on it, but he was the voice note indicates that it's a couple of lads, a couple of brothers that are in for murder, and to use the wording that was used in the voice note, there are a couple of nutters, and they managed to get into Ruda Cabana's cell today and have given him a severe beating that will have hospitalized him. I understand that there's head injuries, his jaw's smashed, and that's as much as I know. I will guarantee you that the mainstream media won't be reporting that tomorrow because they want the story gone by tomorrow morning. Whether they do or not, I won't hazard a guess, but they want the story gone, which is why the trial happened on Thursday, so they could report it on Friday. And as I keep telling you on this channel, we see through some of the shenanigans of the mainstream media and the government and the propaganda arm of the government. They wanted the story finished by 5 o'clock Friday so that all the reporting would not be done over the weekend, so that you would forget it by Monday morning. That's not the way this particular story is going, because the country is so outraged and apoplectic with rage that nothing is going to appease the majority of the country. The politicians think they can get away with it, but they've now got deniability because they've not got anything to do with it. But let's see if that story, A, is true, and B, is reported on by the mainstream legacy media. But I will reiterate, Ruda Cabana's had a kicking in his cell, quite a severe kicking, prison justice, two brothers not named who were in for murder managed to get to him. We will talk about that in a wider context in just a little while, but I wanted to bring that at the beginning of this particular live. So if you've only just gotten into the live, you've missed a very important announcement. Where's my glasses gone? Welcome to live number 144. Just checking. And to Mr. Moderator, there is no moderator. So I'm not quite sure what that post is about, because somebody is fucking about is going to find out. Roy Gordon, can I have a tea cake and a slice of Battenberg, please? Oh, a tea cake with Battenberg chaser. Yeah, utter wrongin'. Stuart says, evening, Rev. You should have seen the look on Mr. Bishop's face when he saw me making your hibiscus. You should have seen the look on my face when I saw Mr. Bishop. If looks could kill. Well, I'm going to tell you that the Bishop has, in his... he decided to be quite kind and gentle this week. So he's not giving the Bishop's finger. He's giving something else, according to the choir boys, because the Bishop came to me and he said, Rev, I've been given something by one of the choir boys. Is it allowed? I said, depends what it is, Your Holiness. And he said, well, tell the congregation you can tell them on Sunday night after you've done all of the comments and you get into after the legendary Battenbergers. So I said, right, Your Eminence, I will do, but I'll tell them what the sermon's going to be about tonight before I do that, if you don't mind. But he's apologised. I hate to tell you what for. So thank you, Stuart. Hibiscus is here. Oh, nectar of the gods. Louise Sampson, evening all, yeah, wrong'uns. Evening, Louise. Stuart, I made my dad's day yesterday with that Starmer Coffee Bean 100 in Welsh. I asked my Alexa to say Tony Blair. My dad was in stitches. I agree. The video's up in there. I'm not asking her. I'm only pointing over there because that's where she is. I'm not going to show you her. She's too gobby for my liking. Andrew James, the mugs are empty. Do your job and fill them, please. Oh, I say, what oh? The congregation getting a bit lively. Johnny Ray says, good evening, Rev, and all the wrong'uns in the body of the Kirk this evening, and welcome to your good self, Johnny Ray. To Des Ashton, oh, I say, young Des, good evening, Reverend A, and all you wrong'uns. Having murdered a haggis in honour of a Japanese poet last night, I shall watch and listen from the wings. Bless you. I haven't had. There's nothing better than a bit of haggis with neeps and tatties, or tatties, as it's pronounced in the northeast of England, of which I am one. It's Burns Night. Is it 25th Burns Night? There's loads of my mates. I don't know how I've managed this, but I've got a load of friends that are born in January. My birthday tomorrow, which I'm told I have to keep free, so I'm not quite sure what's going to go on tomorrow. Well, evidently there are games afoot. So, no, I'm not telling you how old I am. Yeah, wrongin'. But birthday boy today. That's why we're going to, I'm being treated by this little trip to Malta. It is Knight Templar Central. Promise you. Knight Templar Central. It's also Knight Hospitaller and Knight Malta. So I literally can't wait, because I do love a bit of history, especially the Knight Templar, because they're still around. They are still around. Should I tell you tonight? I might do a little bit later. I just want to welcome people into the body of the Kirk. Tracy the Celibate Sinner, evening all. I went to church today for midday mass. Bloody hell, were you out of your bed? Tracy the Celibate Sinner. When they said body of Christ, I don't know whether to kneel or get on top. Oh, it's too funny. Let me tell you about the Bishop. So thank you to everyone that's passed comments. I will as I go along. just say hello, because there's plenty of bodies in the body of the Kirk this evening, and it would be nice if you could smash the lights on your way in. Yeah, wrong, rather than on your way out. Make sure you wipe your feet as you come in, not as you go out. So smash the likes if you could. Let's get it over 100, because seemingly, not that I'm an expert by any stretch of the imagination, it does something to the algorithm. Quite what? I don't know. Maybe it excites it. I don't know. But firstly, the bishop has apologised. He feels a bishop's finger as reward for a good service to the community is not applicable anymore. So he's upped his game, seemingly. And I think it's because one of the choir boys, I think it was one of the elder choir boys, you know, they have like the wrong uns, the young uns, the little uns, and the old uns. But the young uns are the ones with the very high voices, and the old uns have the bass type resonance. I think it's one of the elders of the choir boys. But seemingly, the bishop has left Thank you, Aidan. I'm going to talk about that in just a little while. Thank you. But seemingly, the bishop has, well, how can I put this delicately? He's left a small deposit. He said, Rev, can I have a word? Not in the confessional, please. This must go no further apart from, well, he said me and him, but me includes the congregation in the body of the Kirk. Seemingly, he said there's French love honey, Google it if you wish, French love honey next to the donations receptacle. And I said to him, Your Eminence, have you left a donation? He said, well, I thought it was applicable. I thought it was only right and proper, Reverend Allen. So just in case you are on your way out, or if you're mooching about during the sermon, you might find some French love honey. I've never heard of it before. I don't know what he's talking about, Your Honour. But one of the elder choir boys has given him some. I said some, not one. And he said that seemingly he got it, the choir boy, the elder choir boy, got it from a bishop in France. I'm not quite sure how that works. Just Google French love honey. You'll find out. And seemingly France had, this bishop had too much and had to just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. For some inexplicable reason. I've no idea why. Maybe the big lad upstairs with his, his white beard, his white coat, his wings and his halo, playing his harp, has had a word with this French bishop. Not that I'm bashing him, of course, but he said he had too much. So supplies are slowly going down in France. So I'm just telling you, that's the kind of bishop we have running this particular parish. And utter roggans. Welcome to the legendary Badenburgers. Thank you to Josh Ward, who said, Rev, here's a birthday pint of Jägerbomb. Jägerbomb hibiscus. Cheers, Adrian, for all your lives. Thoroughly entertaining and enlightening. Thank you, Josh. And thank you for your continued support. Some will go into the sweary Mary box, and some will go for the little livening hibiscus. Whilst we give the sermon tonight. Andy B, thank you for your super sticker, as ever. Thank you for your support. Stuart, happy birthday. Thank you, Stuart. Always appreciate your support, as I do. Karen says happy birthday. And Paul Morton, man. Is that amen? So thank you to Josh and Andy and Stuart and Karen and Paul for their support of the channel, and for your very kind words about another year older. I'm not sure I'm another year wiser. So the sermon, Simon, this evening, we're going to talk about Trump. He's only been in the job 6 days. I mean, he's not hanging about. I'll give you the latest. Have you heard about Colombia? It's proper kicked off between Trump and Colombia. He's not messing about. FAFO. He's giving it to them. Trump says Keir Starmer's doing a very good job. I'm sure he is. So, well, as I say, FAFO, he'll find out when he comes across here. Because I heard somebody interview him very briefly. It was like a soundbite. And Trump likes Starmer, apparently. Well, he will do, because he's a businessman. He's going to make money out of Starmer. He knows he's corrupt. What do you mean? Oh, do you want me to qualify that? 100 grand's worth of freebies. That's all I'm going to say. free Arsenal tickets, free suits, free glasses, free everything. At least 100 grand that we know of. So, in my view, that constitutes corruption. Taking freebies because you're in a position of power. So, Trump will know. He will know that he's up for a freebie. Whether it's in Davos or not, but don't sort of tease me. I am going to get into Trump in a moment. We're going to talk about Trump. We're going to talk about Ruda Cabana. So he's gone from Belmarsh to HMP Manchester, otherwise known as Strangeways. I remember the riots. Do you? I'm old enough. And he might end up in Ashworth, I think, because they're going to have to do something to protect him. We're going to talk about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. And, Hollywood is exploding right before our very eyes. Hollywood's had it done, finished, over. We're going to talk about Robert Reeves. Oh, did you not know where she'd been? I mean, I tell you every time I speak to you. Robert Reeves, she's been in Davos all week with a begging bowl. Going, go on. Well, the Chinese Communist Party gave me 500 million. Now, look, I know the wealthy. The wealthy wouldn't part with a steam off their own turds. So why are they giving her 500 million? What do the Chinese get in return? And do you know when Starmer the Harmer stands at the dispatch box and goes, oh, we've had so much inward investment. So come on, Sakia, tell us, you're wrongin'. What do they get for the inward investment? What are you selling off? Would it be Gordon Brown levels of selling off our physical gold at the bottom of the market? So what does Robert Reeves have to promise? Maybe get Ginger Growler on the case. So what does she have to promise to bring this inward investment, however millions or billions or trillions? I doubt it's going to be trillions. I doubt it's going to be billions. The Chinese Communist Party had taken the absolute proverbial out of Robert Reeves. So we're going to talk about her. We're going to have an adult conversation about knife crime. We have to. This can no longer wait. We have to. Nothing to do with Southport. There were 2 cases on Friday of 4 people in one area of London and 4 people in another area. Sorry, and there was somebody else killed in Birmingham, and there was it's too far now. And unless, let's have the adult conversation in just a little while. And we've got an update on Bunny Blue. Oh, she's not a happy bunny today. Absolutely not a happy bunny. Tom Harney's, she promised a look at her black hole. She won't get much for that. 50p each. Mark, Holly woke. I know. Holly woke, Holly weird, all the stuff. But I literally can't stop laughing. Because the world in 6 days has completely altered. All these politicians who are just, they'll say anything, man. Anything just to grift a few bob. They'll say anything. So the Donald has come out today, because there's so much since Monday that if I went through everything since Monday, it would take me 5 hours to do this live, because he's literally gone, right, lads, I'm in charge. There you go. 200 executive orders. The day after, I'm in charge. Get this sorted and do it now. And everybody's like, whoa, bloody hell, Donald, man, mate. He's even little Elon has kind of disappeared. And little Elon's gone, oh, I can give you a little bit of time. Vivek Ramaswamy has resigned from the Department of Governmental Employees or something, Doge, basically. So Vivek's resigned. Elon has said, I'll only give you 90 days or something he's going to do. So the Donald's got to find somebody to look after the Department of Government, whatever it is, spending, exuberance. Oh, thank you, Stuart. Ice, baby, Soul Rebel, I know. So the Donald today, oh my God, so Keir Starmer pays tribute to Donald Trump for his role in Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal. My word. You know the one that Biden tried to take the credit for? Yeah, President Brown Trousers, him. Vivek is a Brahmin. I don't know what that means, Vix Tex. I'm not very bright tonight. I'm not very on it because I've had a very, 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 very busy day. But the Donald, we'll talk about that. Let me just get rid of that alert. BBC alert saying the Donald has come out, not out, because he's not like that, just out. And he said, well, yeah, you know, Keir Starmer, he's not a bad lad. And I'm sure I can do business with him. So Keir Starmer's come out and gone, well, it's a Sunday because it's not Shabbat. So technically, he don't work on a Saturday, not allowed to. Can you imagine his missus? Wait, you, 5 o'clock, Friday, that's it. Home with me and the kids. Not Lord Ali either. And well, he can work on a Sunday because he's not. No, he gets told what to do by the missus sometimes when she's not around. Bad Wolf Project, man 53 charged with murder of university lecturer Klein chick. Oh, man. We'll get to that adult conversation because it's out of control now. It is out of control. Bring the special forces in. Don't muck about. Because, you see, for poor Keir, who'd want to be Keir Starmer? Not even Keir Starmer wants to be Keir Starmer. He wants to be something else. See what I did there? Oh, yeah, bugger. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? So Keir Starmer is, what was I going to say there? Honestly, by the time I've done 2 hours of this, I will be incoherent. I'll be talking gibberish and talking utter shite. Starmer, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, he said, the BBC, he's you know, because Trump's come out and gone, oh, he's not a bad lad. Starmer's had to do something. He can't turn around and go, I mean, I'm sure I put the video up on X of him 2016, 2018. Oh, no, bloody hell, no. Trump, what, oh, no, never supporting him. 2025, oh, yeah, Trump's a really good lad. I'll support him. But you look, I mean, I look at Starmer. And I am going to talk about it. He's devoid of anything. He's just devoid. So there's the Trump. Let's get to the Trump. The Rev has Philippe Philoped. What, are we talking French now? Says Nick. Britain wanted a trade deal with Canada. Canada wanted to import hormone beef injected with growth hormones. Hence why we now see no Canadian cheese in shops. Thank you, Aidan. Who'd want to eat Canadian cheese? Blech. I mean, I've been to Whistler. Skiing, well, a version of skiing. I'm not quite sure you could call me Franz Klammer, but it's squeal like a girlie, get down the mountain without breaking your legs or killing yourself. That's my version of skiing. But went to Whistler and the nachos are off the charts. They are absolutely, I'd kill for them, to be fair. And there's a little Irish pub in Whistler. If you ever go, it's a little Irish pub in Whistler. Amongst all the Canadian stuff, and it does the best pies. I mean, I love me pies. Can't you tell? Hairy ones, mince ones. I love a mincing pie, definitely. Beef. All pies are meant to be red. Make your own gags up. But the nachos in Whistler are just amazing. So the Canadians, money, yeah. 1 for yes, 2 for no. So the Canadians are, I've actually met quite a few. Do you know, I will say this, that the Canadians are possibly one of the most friendly nations on planet Earth that I've experienced. I've travelled a bit, but the Canadians were fantastic. All of them, every single one, fantastic. And then I met some in the jungle. It was a bit like, Dr. Livingstone, I presume, in the Peruvian jungle. And they were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So Trudeau, the younger, not the elder, the younger, is just a bit of a, well, it's a technical term that we use in radio. It's just an arsewipe. So banning Canadian cheese, what they made it from? Elk or something? Ugh. Give me a red Leicester any day, darling. I don't do a blue, I have to tell you, because I will not allow anything with a blue vein past my lips. Just for reference for you. So Donald Trump today, he's like, he said, "Oh, right, do you know the Gazans? Have we got any Canadians in today? You're not Canadian, are you, Gary?" The Donald says, "Oh, you know the Gazans in Gaza?" "Yes, Mr. President." Well, they could be relocated to other Arab countries, like the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, Mr. President. And I've told you a million times that the Americans and the Israelis didn't spend $300 million on a port halfway up the Gaza Strip to be told, no, you can't do that. Because they did. They did. Do you know, I'm getting, now this is my ears, because I'm speaking so loudly, I'm reverberating off either my bookshelves or the wall, bizarrely, and I'm getting like a little tinny reverb from in the room. That's there. That's what 40 years of radio does to you. So the Donald, and I am going to stick another video up over the next couple of days before I go on Wednesday. I've told you what Israel is about. I've told you what the Gaza Strip is about. I've told you what it's all about. Now, I am sure that you will recognize that I'm not psychic. In fact, I'm not even compass mentis most of the time. And another IQ point, I'd be a lamppost. But it seems that I've seen through what Israel wanted and what Biden, the OCG Biden family wanted by building that port, the $300 million port halfway up the Gaza Strip in the East Mediterranean Sea. And the reason why I mention that is because, so the Americans, because it wasn't the Israelis really, it was American dollar, spent $300 million on building a port. They said it was for aid, and then they said, "Oh no, we've dismantled it." Thank you, Paris and the Philippines. Much appreciated. Yeah, wrong. So they said, "Well, we've built this port for aid, so that we can give aid to the Gazans." And I said to you at the time, how do we end shite, man? They're not building a port for aid. Don't be stupid. That's just for the propaganda, for the newspapers, the propaganda peddlers. What have they done? They built it for the army. They built it for the exploration in the East Mediterranean Sea. And now what is happening? The Donald is saying, because he's a businessman, they're going to rebuild South Gaza. So it's been chopped in half. So the north half is for the oil and gas exploration. It is for military bases. It is for everything that they don't want you to see. But that's why they built a $300 million port halfway up the Gaza Strip. So they can bring all of the arms and armaments in and out, the Americans. How much do you want, Bibi? What do you want? Do you want some missiles? Right, well, we'll just bring them ashore at the port, halfway up Gaza Strip. And the road that's being built, so effectively trapping the Gazans in the South Gaza Strip. So now what they're going to do, I will guarantee you, sure as eggs are eggs, that Trump the businessman will have another Trump Tower, if he can get it up at his age, another Trump Tower in the South Gaza. What they're going to do is they're going to do the same as the Ukraine, and they're going to do the same as any other theatre around the world. Rebuilding it is infinitely more profitable than flogging the missiles. So they're going to get the Gazans out and have them go to Qatar and all of the other Arab countries around Israel. And the Gazans will be moved into the Sinai Peninsula. So what they do, and I said to you at the time, it makes sense to have the Gazans have on the Sinai Peninsula, because nobody goes there. If you look at Israel, they were one of the first countries in the world to work out desalination, get the salt out of the water for fresh water, for building up things, as in, just making it a very green and pleasant land. So I will make a pound or a penny bet that the Gazans will be moved onto the Sinai Peninsula once it's been agreed that they will rebuild the Sinai Peninsula and call it Palestine. And they will make it in the likeness of whatever the Gazans want. Because then the oil and gas under the Gaza Strip, which current conservative estimates, is worth trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. So that and the Ben Gurion Canal that's going to come up from the Red Sea. Have you noticed how the Houthis are not, well, they've stopped. There was an announcement the other day where they said, oh, yeah, we've stopped. And I turned around and went, hang on. So who are the Houthis? Israeli government. Who are the Houthis? Mossad. Who are the Houthis? Because basically they were just firing rockets at ships. And all the ships were shitting themselves. Oh, got to go through the Suez Canal. Got to go through the Suez Canal. So all the deals were done with the Arabic countries around, making sure that the Houthis wouldn't bomb anything. And all of a sudden, they're exchanging hostages. And the Houthis go, right, lads, had enough. We're off now. Off to shag some camels. Did you say that? I'm sure I heard somebody. If you're old enough and young enough to kind of work this all out, they're businessmen. Rebuilding something is going to be infinitely more profitable than bombing the proverbial out of them. Honestly, I've got to do something about this sweary Mary stuff. So that's why the Donald's come out today. Not out. But he's come out today and gone, oh, the Gazans should be relocated to other Arab countries. That's just one bit of what the Donald's up to. So they're after that oil and that gas under the East Mediterranean Sea and in the Gaza Strip. They want all the Gaza Strip, and they're going to give new homes to the Palestinians because they've given billions of dollars to the Palestinians or the Gazans, whichever one you want to call them. But their leaders skimmed a ton of it for their own. Nick, that's very funny. They've skimmed a whole load of it. I've told you before, little Yasser Arafat, not cockeyed, he was worth billions. How would he be worth billions? Because the Americans were giving him billions of dollars just to look after his people. And what did he do? He siphoned it off and put it into Swiss bank accounts and kept all the details in his head. Then he died. Nobody's got any details. So there's billions of dollars that were given to Yasser Arafat for the Gazans or the Palestinians, for the Palestinian people, for Palestine. He was given billions. He didn't pass it on. He siphoned it off and put it in Swiss bank accounts. Now you can't get into a Swiss bank account now. If you haven't got the password, you ain't getting in. And then you've got all these other leaders of the Gazans who've done exactly the same thing. Billionaires in Qatar. Thank you, Phil. You in? He hit the like on the way in. Another six gets us over 100, and just lets YouTube know that this is quite liked. So let me tell you about, just before I came on air, I've got to tell you about Trump, because it's the whole. That's what I was going to talk about Starmer earlier. That was the point. Who would be Sir Keir Starmer? He's in Davos this week. Robert Reeves is in Davos this week. Was Liz Truss there? I know she was in Washington, D.C. at the beginning of the week. And I've got to stop laughing at these people because basically they're as thick as pig shit. I can't begin to tell you how hard I've been laughing today. It was very hard, to be fair. They're laughing before you start. So Colombia, the retaliation. So Keir Starmer, sorry, I'll finish this off. So Sir Keir Starmer is looking across the pond at what Donald's doing. Donald has done DJ Trump. God loves a DJ. DJ Trump in 6 days has done more for the American people, America first, than Sir Keir Starmer's done in 7 months, where he shafted the English, shafted the Scots, shafted the Welsh, shafted the Irish. He's just, well, we know he loves a good shafting. So, who would be Sir Keir Starmer watching what's going on in America, the leader of the free world, and he's got to try and match that or come up with stuff for the people of this sceptred isle? No. At least Grandpa Simpson's gone. No, not Grandpa Simpson. Grandpa from Only Fools and Horses. He left 40 grand, didn't he? Newkie Brown says, Beckham and Wef, WTF, Obviously, Newty Brown, you've been missing the last couple of lives. I am going to tell you and explain something to you about Beckham and WEF and stuff. It's all coming, don't worry. So Trump today. So the Colombians, the American military filled this plane, sent it down to Colombia. And Colombia went, oh, no, or words to that effect in Colombian. They weren't marching very far, so no marching powder. So they sent these miscreants, these utter wrong'uns, down to Colombia. And Colombia went, no. And Trump went, what do you mean? No, it's me you're talking to. It'll be bollocks to the Pope next. So you're going to take these wrong'uns? And Colombia went, no, no. No. So Colombia turned away U.S. military flights carrying deported migrants. And when they said no, the Donald was like, F-A-F-O. So what I'm going to do is emergency 25% tariff on all goods coming into the USA from Colombia. That's for starters. And then he said an immediate travel ban, visa revocations on Colombian government officials. And that wasn't all. And he said all allies and supporters, anybody with anything to do with Colombia, we're going to revoke your visas and we're just going to deport you. Off you go. You can go on the same bloody plane as these migrants, these illegal migrants. And then there's visa sanctions on all party members, family members, and anything to do with the political elite out of Colombia. And that's not all. He's turned around and said, and all supporters of the Colombian government, you can foxtrot Oscar. And he then says, and these measures are just the beginning. So Colombia, F-A-F-O. Look, I won't be able to keep tabs on the swear box if I tell you what F-A-F-O is every time I mention it. So that's the Donald, as well as all the executive orders, as well as signing the executive orders and being interviewed by the press. The press, they don't know what to do because they tried to assassinate him. They tried lawfare. 34 indictments. They tried every which way. Is he going to get his money back from the former dancing girlie, shall we call her, that he had to pay like hundreds of millions to? I couldn't quite work that out. But New York, he's got them in his crosshairs. Don't worry about the judiciary in New York or anywhere else. He's only got 24 hours in a day, and he can only do so much. But honestly, I burst my incontinence pants. I wet myself laughing at Colombia going, oh, here, no, mate, Foxtrot Oscar. Trump, you telling me to Foxtrot Oscar? Right, have this then. 25% tariff on all goods from Colombia coming into the United States. Takes their profit out. I mean, they reckon that if you have a business and you're making 30% profit on your turnover, then that's a very good business. 30% is a good business. So he's putting a tariff on 25%. And they're like, Alan says, you can't beat a good FAFO. I know. It's 2025, man. But the Donald, and who is it? The Department of Defense, they've gone dark. I'm not quite sure which way to interpret this, but they've gone dark for 10 days because they've just put, is it Higgs, this guy that looks like an all-American guy as head of defense, and they've gone, all right, we're going dark. Please yourself. Is that on Epstein Island? And do you know what else Trump did? And I mean, honestly, I'm an old boy. I can't take any more laughing. I'm supposed to be a grumpy old tart. I can't be laughing all the time. I can't even be showing you or anybody else anything that's funny because Martin Luther King. Have you seen it yet? I'll do another video for you. Martin Luther King. What an absolute slut. Technical term that we use in radio, but the CIA, was it FBI papers? Yeah, it must have been the FBI. But the intelligence agencies had papers on MLK. And now people are asking, why have we got a national day for him? Because he was involved in, this is the 60s. And the 60s, America was prudish in the 60s, kind of, but he was indulging in orgies, in having dancing with blokes, and he had a mistress and made the mistress pregnant, all while purporting to be cleaner than clean. So Martin Luther King, are they going to take the day off him? I mean, poor Stevie Wonder did that song and everything for him, and now he finds out. Unless, of course, the music industry is far, far worse than that. But in the 60s, enjoying kind of... No, there isn't any clean words that you can say for orgies and, you know, shagging, dancing men, dancing women. I mean, any holds a goal for Martin Luther King. And, yeah, he was putting his business out there on the streets, and fancy... I mean, his wife's not alive, but she must have known. Yeah, gangbangs. I mean, there's loads of words for it, but I can't think off the top of my head any clean ones for it. But Martin Luther King, you dirty old tart. And he had us fooled. Everybody, the world, America, everybody had us fooled. Somebody must have known. Well, the intelligence agencies did, the CIA and the FBI, because they produced the papers. And it's all there. And it's all like top secret. Couldn't, I mean, wasn't it J. Edgar Hoover that kind of was keeping an eye on things? And J. Edgar Hoover, he would have been called trans now. He loved wearing women's clothes. In my naive view, obviously. But J. Edgar Hoover, utter wrong'un. MLK, utter wrong'un. It's now seemingly with the JFK papers, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, including naked photographs of Marilyn Monroe and Robert Kennedy, who was shot by Sirhan. You know, she was being double teamed by the Kennedys. So, like, she must have been... I mean, I know she was a very famous actress and stuff, but she's turning out to be the Bonnie Blue of her day, or Lily Phillips, if you wish. But these papers are definitely out. I want the Epstein papers. I want to know. Great dirty minds think alike, Nick. Hang on, what's Nick said? Oh, right, okay. I'm not repeating that. I couldn't get FAFO out, let alone talk about wet dreams. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Didn't see my lips move. Oi, 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 oi. Oh, the Jaeger bomb at the bottom's just kind of filtering through. It's warming me up. So I'm loving the Donald. I'm loving America, because America thinks that life is one way, and actually it's not. It's the other way, including MLK, who went the other way. He went both roads. But as an old ninja once told me, an eagle that chases two rabbits catches neither. But seemingly, MLK did. All of them. He was banging like a barn door in a storm, that boy. And America's gone, oh, our hero, what are we going to do? They're prudes, really, the Americans. Let's talk about, let's move on to Axel Ruda Buchanan. So I said to you on Wednesday, and I gave you a really deep dive at the end of Wednesday, near the end of Wednesday. I did a deep dive with Phillips, the woman that's supposedly looking after women and kids. And I did a deep dive on Friday. There's like nearly a half-hour video out there with detail, because that's the only thing that we can do, really. Alexa, volume 4. Alexa, what does banging like a barn Alexa, what does banging like a barn door mean?
From thecontentauthority.com. The phrase originates from the practice of closing a barn door to prevent a horse from escaping, but doing so after the horse has already run away.
No, it's not. That's shutting the barn door after the horse has bolted. Yeah, Roman. Can't trust her, can you? So let's be serious just for 5 minutes, because we are in the midst of something that the very fabric of this country has been ripped through, and we have politicians that are, the best that they could do was not doing something. Look, this is their diversionary tactic. This is what they do with propaganda. This is what they do when they are trying to peddle furiously and stop you from realizing that they're just caring, understanding 90s types. The namby-pamby pinko liberals. The scum-sucking pond life. They are a political theatre, as Vixtech says. That's all it is. So they're saying, right, what we're going to do is, because he ordered a knife online, they're not telling you where he got the Al-Qaeda handbook from. They're not telling you that bit of detail, but they're saying, oh, yes, well, he ordered it from Amazon. But what they don't tell you was he got one of the neighbours to take delivery of it. So these intellectual pygmies in the Pink Palace in London, if brains were dynamite, they wouldn't have enough to blow their caps off. No, you can't get the book from Amazon. You can get it from the dark web, though. I won't tell you how I know. I haven't got a copy. I'm not going to look. I'm not that stupid. But I am telling you, I have been told by an expert, and I can't tell you who, but I would suggest that you don't go looking for it. So the fact that he was in possession of that book tells me everything that I need to know, because it's a terrorist handbook. So Ruda Cabana, he was being housed in Belmarsh, because we know from Stephen Yaxley Lennon that he'd been aware of him and the floor above him. And I don't think that that Stephen's going to, considering all the trouble that he's in, he knows that integrity is everything now. So he's just going to tell truth after truth after truth. And we knew that he was in Belmarsh, but he was transferred. And I've said to you before that the prison system is such that they will try and move a prisoner to someone local to their family, so that they're not really going back to Victorian times where you're banged up, you don't have any contact with anybody, and your food's awful. They've tried to give them, PlayStations and stuff, and they've tried to accommodate them. So they will put them in a place where, and I want to get to this in a moment, because it gives you complete understanding and context. So Axel Ruda Cabana won't go into general population, or so I thought. He certainly wasn't going to go Rule 43, isolation. And a Rule 43 is a temporary segregation of prisoners. That's law since 1999. And it's to stop prisoners from associating with other prisoners, whether it be for safety of the prisoner or safety of others. Are you aware that there are only 3 high security hospitals in this country? In Great Britain, there are only 3. There is Broadmoor, Ashworth, and Rampton High Security Psychiatric Hospitals. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I was always led to believe that at the moment there are only 3 high security hospitals. So Ashworth is in Merseyside. So what they're doing, the prison service. Sorry, I was distracted by a comment by Keith, and I will get to it in a moment if I can remember it. They try to put you close to somewhere within, say, 45 minutes to an hour's drive, where your family can come and visit you. He's a young guy, he's only 18. So they've obviously decided, and they would need to evaluate him and assess him immediately before he's gone anywhere else. I'm not sure that in 3 days they've had enough time to assess him. It is a Cat A prison, and he would be needed to be assessed almost immediately, within a day or two. Cat A, high security. Cat D, open prison. He's definitely not gone to a Cat D. So Ashworth, Broadmoor and Rampton are high security psychiatric hospitals. And those in the know that I've spoken to said he will go to a high security hospital. They're not going to muck about with this. Broadmoor is almost equidistant between Reading and Windsor, so that's not going to get him anywhere near his family. Ashworth is Merseyside, near Maghull. So if, and I don't know where the family are, could be back in Rwanda for all we know, we don't know where the family are, but Ashworth seems to be the high security hospital that he would go to for the family to be able to visit him. And there's also Rampton, which is in Nottinghamshire. It's just not far from Retford, which is a beautiful place. Retford, love it. So it's kind of equidistant between Retford and Mansfield and Lincoln. It's like in a triangle. Just east of the A1, near Retford, is where Rampton is. Now, Ashworth is the more convenient. He would be being assessed really quickly before the move, because one governor would like to tell another governor exactly who he is, and also this prisoner would bring a lot of money with him, as in not him in his pockets, but the government will want to throw money at this to make it go away, to make you forget, me forget, everybody forget what had gone on, because there is the political will, and they would throw money at whichever prison or hospital that he would be taken to. This inquiry, oh man, they're just playing lip service. Sorry, they're just paying lip service to you. Alexa, I didn't say shout. I said lip service.
Thanks for the feedback.
Shut up. Alexa, volume 1. So this inquiry, and they're saying, yes, we're going to hold an inquiry. They're literally, this is the political classes, the parasitic classes, are paddling furiously because they know they're in the doo-doo. They know they're in the brown stuff. They know they need to appease you and me and a whole swathe of the country because we've had enough. And this will come, in my view and in my experience of life, they will want this to go away. They'll want it to go away because they want to have 10 years in power. Starmer's going to be lucky if he does 1 year, 12 months. But they want this to go away. So watch the money. It'll seep out somehow, the story of that, whether it's from people inside the prison. They will know he's in their prison. There will be people in the high security psychiatric hospitals that will know if he's there. And there's some tough people in GMP Manchester, formerly Strangeways, and or Ashworth High Security Psychiatric Hospital. So anything he does or anything the system does is not going to go unnoticed. But the government will throw money at this because it's the only thing they've got to solve the problem. And it will be covered up. Scapegoat will be identified. Now, in my view and experience of life, I'm looking at prevention and I'm looking at the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police. For no other reason than there will be a scapegoat. I know there will be a scapegoat, and there'll be a scapegoat that's not a politician. And there'll be a scapegoat that doesn't splash back onto the politicians because they need deniability. That's what they do. Deniability, then they get away with it. Because remember, it's not Starmer that's running the Labour Party. It's the Labour Party that's running Starmer. He's getting away with it until they decide he's not going to get away with it anymore. He was used to get them into power, and there are dark forces within the Labour Party that will tell Starmer, oi, bunny lad, off you go, Foxtrot Oscar. We want to be in power for 10 years. Because they make as much money in the shadows as they... Russ Potts. I get it. I'm not going to say it again because I think everybody's doodah up and down the country is kind of pinging. I get it. Or I do get it, Russ. So the scapegoat will be identified. It won't be anything that can splash back to the politicians. and they will paddle furiously to make sure that whatever comes out of this inquiry, whether it's a 6-week inquiry or whether it's a 6-month inquiry or if it's a 6 or 7 year inquiry, nothing will go back to the politicians, because the Labour Party, the power in the shadows, want to stay in for 10 years. So he's been transferred, and on this voice note, I will give you that detail again. HMP Manchester, Ruda Cabana got battered in his cell this morning, Sunday morning. 2 brothers in for murder, I think it's 35 years apiece might have been mentioned, smashed him to pieces. 2 lunatics, smashed his face in, smashed his jaw. Now, I can't condone violence in any way, shape or form. But I understand what the country is going through. And I'm not sure, no, I'm not going to ask you to vote for this, because I kind of know. Look, the general population, and I'm not talking about the prison general population, but I will in a moment. The general population, me and you, the man and woman on the street, the man and woman that pay the bloody taxes, that pay these MPs to do their job. We are apoplectic with rage. And as Stuart says, I don't condone violence either, Adrian, but prisoners don't take kindly to anyone in for harm to kids. There's a golden rule in prisons from prisoners. Now, I know they're in there for a reason, but I've had many letters from the lads in the big house, and obviously they go through the system before they get to me. But the golden rule, from what I've been told by lads that have been in, are in, were in a long time ago, that you don't touch women, daughters, sisters, mothers, wives. You don't touch women. So anybody that's had their hands on a woman, whether it be, well, you know what I mean, whether it's violence or not, or other things, then they deal and mete it out, prison justice. But those that are sacrosanct are the bairns, the little uns, 6, 7 and 9 years old. So this attack from what, and I don't know whether this is true. I don't, other than a voice note that I've heard. And if it is true, then the prison system will just clam up and protect him, stick him in. He's not right. He has issues. He needs to go into a psychiatric hospital. And there is a question that I wanted to ask you, and now I think is appropriate, because I've seen a lot of comments that have been passed on to me by the team, and people are crying out for the death penalty. They're crying out for justice. Would it be restorative justice if this person was given a death penalty? But you know, as passionate as I feel about it, and I'm probably on similar pages to you, you just know that if they put the death penalty back on the statute books, the government and or politicians would use it for the wrong reasons. Only afterwards going, oh, sorry lads, we're gubbed up. Yeah. So you know the death penalty going on the statute books, because they would do it on purpose. They would, to be able to say to you, we need to get rid of this now. We've taken the wrong decision, as has happened in the past. People have been executed wrongly. Can't do anything once they're being executed. So as much as I want something to have been done about this, about the Southport incident, I don't trust the politicians. In fact, I wouldn't. I don't trust politicians as far as I could spit them. I get it, Alan, that Starmer has given the death sentence to 4,000 pensioners. At least that's their paperwork. I mean, they may have said, 4,000 pensioners are going to die this winter. Because I think the beast from the east's coming, isn't it? Des Ashton says, posthumous pardons are as much use as a chocolate teapot. I know, Des. I know. That's why, because I know the political classes, I know the politicians. The politicians are just there for the power. The power brings them enormous wealth. That's why they're in there. Look, Starmer could have made a ton of money as a barrister in the legal system, but he chose not to. He wanted the power. And I guarantee you, as much as he went in as a multi-millionaire, he'll come out as a multi-millionaire. And he'll go into the House of Lords. He'll be looked after for the rest of his life. Kitty Roo. Ooh. What's wrong with lampposts? Says Kitty. Not the Kitty, obviously. So, is this restorative justice? Is this the right kind of justice? So I'm going to ask you, it's 1 for yes and 2 for no. Would you, in all good conscience, after what I've just said to you about society taking retribution and how it could go wrong in the hands of corrupt politicians? 1 for yes, 2 for no. The question is, do we bring back the death penalty for murder of children? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Derek Tomlinson, life in prison should be locked in a dark cell 23 hours and 1 hour out for food and exercise and a shower. Interesting, Karen. I didn't expect everyone to say yes. I didn't, because it's a really difficult conversation to have. It's a very adult conversation to have, but it's very difficult and challenging to be able to decide to take another human being's life, irrespective of what they have done. But I did ask the question, Luke, too, they can stitch you up. I agree. Soul Rebel, don't trust. That's obviously the politicians. But Starmer has said on Friday, I think, may have been Saturday, but it wouldn't have been him because it's Shabbat. He doesn't do anything on a Saturday. Once it's darkness on a Friday tea time, once the sun goes down, that's it. Don't do anything until sunset on a Saturday, and then he starts work on a Sunday. That's the rule. It's interesting that it is mixed. Debbie75 says 2. And I don't think it's a male-female thing either. I think there's a lot of people that don't trust politicians. And they don't trust politicians because they know that they will use it to their own nefarious ends. I mean, if Trump, after all the slaver that Starmer and Lammy and, I mean, Ginger Growler called him a buffoon. Can you imagine how she's going to have to bow and scrape to the most powerful man in the Western world? Not the UK government. No, the American government. He's the President of the United States. And also, let me continue this. I wanted to mention it earlier. Are you aware that the Republican Party are putting something through their Senate which will change the Constitution so that an American president can serve 3 terms? So what they're trying to do is to try to make sure that the Donald can serve 3 terms. Now, thinking about that, because they've got the death sentence in America, they don't muck about in America. If you've done really bad things, poof, they're going to take your life. And Starmer, he's 78 now. He will conclude this term at 82. But he's so sharp mentally. He's a genius. He's been to military school or military college at the end. So I'm not suggesting that everything that Trump will do is going to be a good thing, because I'm sure he's bound to make mistakes. But if you look at what has been done in the name of the left wing and the Democrats in America and the Labour Party in this country, or all the WEF devotees across Europe, this is not for the greater good. And only if, and Trump needs to get this through the Senate before they get to the midterms. And the Republicans possibly losing the Senate. So there's every chance that for the Donald, if he does a good job, he's going to get 3 terms as president, making America first, doing everything for America first, making America great again, making America healthy again. That will come at a vote. And not to go too deeply into American politics, but they went to a vote in the Senate for this new guy to be head of the Defense Forces. And J.D. Vance had to make a deciding vote. It was 50-50, and J.D. Vance had to make the deciding vote, make it 51, so that is it Hegseth, he could go into as the Secretary for Defense. But Mitch McConnell, he's the guy that every time there's a picture of him on social media, or he kind of starts making a speech, blah, 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 blah. And then somebody's got to go, Senator. And he just stands there going, don't know what he's on, but he's on something. So he stands there looking into space, a bit like President Brown Trousers, poopy pants. One thing he was at last year, he walked off in the wrong direction and was talking to somebody that didn't exist. So I wish America well, because if we have a functioning, healthy, great America, then Starmer's going to look at it and go, oh man, Jesus, what, man? He knows that he's going to have to follow what Trump decides. So, thank you for the vote. Thank you for everyone. Kitty Roo, J.D. Vance was correct about Britain being the first Islamic state with a nuclear weapon. Pakistan's got a nuclear weapon, as has India, because they threatened each other with it. Is there any other Muslim countries? I'm sure there's Arabic countries that have, but I know Pakistan and India definitely do. And yes, we have a nuclear option here, but if you just take a step back from everything and look at it this way, if we have a government, doesn't matter which political hue, colour, allegiance, anything, if they know that they're in the doo-doo, they pedal furiously backwards. And this Labour government, they know. So what they're doing is they're trying to use their PR propaganda arm to make us think something else. And they're paddling furiously because they know that we've got them. We know we've got them in the crosshairs because we're not standing for their shite anymore. We're not. They can say anything they want. We know that they lie. Blatantly. All of them. Every single one. Because nobody's got any integrity in politics. The majority, I would suggest. Maybe there's one or two with some integrity. I'm looking forward to the Channel 4 documentary that's coming out this week with Margaret Thatcher and Brian what's-his-face, who used to do a Sunday lunchtime interview. And I remember the interview that they're going to do in this doc. I watched it live at the time. Oh, and it was... I mean, can you imagine Starmer taking on Thatcher? There was only really Tony Blair. But even then, that's it, Brian Walden. It was just... Soul Rebel says, I like Rupert Lowe. I agree. But we're going to get away from politics in just a moment. But I will tell you this. The political classes know they're in the doo-doo. They know. They know that they can't tell us lies because we've seen through them. We've seen through politics, party politics, everything. Yeah, Rich, Blair, Mr. Soundbite. Agreed. Anthony Charles Linton Blair. Just Google Charles Linton and Bow Street Magistrates. Everybody knows about it by now. Surely I've mentioned it enough times on these lives. But the Labour Party are not fit to wipe some big beast politicians, and it doesn't matter what political hue they are, because if there's a boot on your neck that's the government's boot, it doesn't matter which colour they give you, because that's not democracy. Giving you a choice of two parties and then saying pick one, that's not democracy. Democracy doesn't exist in this country, doesn't exist in America, because the last election, presidential election, had to be too big to rig. So maybe, can't really say this, but I can intimate it. Look, whatever Biden did in 2020, you know that the Republicans were going to do in 2024. So I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying that we can't, and understand this. Be careful what you wish for. Because I get that Farage is just going to use the Donald's playbook. I know that I mean, the political classes, when he was attacked by that OnlyFans strumpet in his Clapham constituency, they said, oh, it was just a milkshake. But Farage didn't know that. So how dare these people just go, I was only a milkshake. No, he was attacked and assaulted. She was let off, ostensibly. She should have been given jail time, because that would have been the perfect message to anybody else that fancied doing it. And it should not be allowed. So we'll get to more stuff, because we're going to do some showbiz and Starmer, because I've seen right through that boy. I'm going to give you a real good insight into him. I'm also going to tell you about corruption and how the system works, so that people can get rich off your back without you knowing at all. So let's have this. Let's leave Axel Ruda, because I want you to see, and I get the morning papers in the morning, and I will tell you whether there's any reportage in there about him. The country's not happy. The politicians know the country's not happy, and it doesn't matter what they say or do, the country will stay unhappy. I've never met a single human being that is happy with the murder of 3 little ones. And my heart goes out to the families. I will also tell you this as a bit of background. Liverpool hate the mainstream media. And I can use that broad brushstroke, because on Thursday, BBC and Sky were told to foxtrot Oscar. But GB News were allowed to stay, because the people of Liverpool think that GB News was actually telling the truth. Now, this is not a promotion for any channel whatsoever, but the wokerati on Sky, because I was watching it live time. I had all 3 screens on and I was watching it live time. And I was watching to see what was happening. And the BBC at one point just like cut away. There was no presenter there in vision. There was on Sky, but they were... I said to you at the beginning of this live, my brain wasn't going to work tonight. Sky was kind of... BBC was one way. Sky was kind of middle ground. Virtue signalling. That's what I was thinking. Sky were virtue signalling with some guy from a Muslim council. I mean, how insensitive are they? Fucking tone deaf, these people. Trying to be clever. Oh, well, you know, we're just ploughing a central way. No. Virtue signalling arseholes. And then we had GB News, who... I get that it was human interest, and I get the tack that GB News took, which was just The reporters, these are hard-nosed reporters. These are hard-nosed, hard-faced. Nothing upsets them. So I was trying to work out whether some of the tears were actually crocodile tears for viewers. I won't point at anybody, but I think there was too many tears going on from these journalists who are as hard as nails. Emotionally, there's no emotion in them. Journalists, I've worked with them for the last 40 years. That's a broad brushstroke, I know, and some of them are good ones. Some of them are very good. I'm not going to give you any names, but I know people who went on to do. I'm sure you're aware that newspapers, they will have an editor, because if the brown stuff hits the fan, the editor gets it. But they've got sub-editors that will go through pieces that journalists submit, red pen, rewrite it, because they want it a certain way. But I've worked with some great news editors in radio that have gone on to be great news editors in TV, like ITV, and in fact 2 of them. I know that the current head of ITV News, who's genuinely a good guy. But we on the back of the Ruda case and whatever's going on with him and the politicians, just don't believe it. I'm not. You can take the same exactly the same information and decide whether it is one way or the other. So it's up for you to decide. I'm not going to influence you, but I do believe that on Friday we had news alerts that people were being stabbed and killed and murdered left, right, and centre. Lauren Taylor, Mark White, his weren't crocodile tears. No, I think the crocodile tears were from Sky and BBC. BBC, to be frank, shit themselves. Because there was, if you look at some of the placards that the locals were holding up at Liverpool Crown Court, they weren't messing it. One on Sky said, media lie, children die. That wasn't reported anywhere. That wasn't reported in the daily newspapers. I'm looking down there to my left because that's where my newspapers are. And there was other stuff for the BBC. And there were people at the BBC, kind of standing behind the BBC. And it was only X that had the truth. And Nick says the details were harrowing. Let me finish off the BBC. So they were standing there, and some guy was giving it jaw, and somebody from the BBC pushed him. So all the Scousers kicked off and went, "That's assault. That's assault." And two bobbies just walked past, and they went, "He's just assaulted him. Do something about it." And obviously the bobbies were just shitting themselves. A lot of that going on Thursday, and they didn't do anything about this person. I don't know whether anyone was spoken to, arrested for assault or anything. But can you imagine being a bobby and somebody, the cameraman or something to do with the BBC, arrest him on the spot for assault, take him down to the Nick and have him processed? Can you imagine if there was no cameraman there? What the BBC going to do? So what they did was, I was watching it, as I say, all 3 channels, and listening to some of the other radio stuff, because they said that all of this was going to be on all TV channels and on radio channels. And Ruda was going to be in vision on the TV channels. And the BBC, in my view, the BBC and Sky News were over-egging the pudding, shall we say. And as Nick says, the details were harrowing. So I will say to you, I am going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. We'll start with, do you believe this was a terrorist incident? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Do you believe that this was a terrorist incident? Interesting, Orkida. Luke says no. The majority of people are saying 1. Thank you, Luke. Are you a first timer? No, that was shite. So the majority of people, apart from the odd 1 or 2, good to see you, Napoleon blown apart, good to see you in the body of the Kirk, are saying no. So, okay, thank you for your votes so far. I'm going to ask you another question. Is, in your view, the Al-Qaeda handbook a terrorist manual? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Is, in your view, the Al-Qaeda handbook that was referenced by the suspect, or now the convict, was the Al-Qaeda handbook a terrorist manual? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Interesting. Ray Norton, Starmer can't identify what a woman is, never mind terrorism. Perfect. Perfect. It's a very good point to make. Wookfit says he did have the Al-Qaeda handbook. He had a study that incorporated the handbook. Okay, whatever the literature was that Ruda Cabana had at home, and did you see the state of his room? Shit tip. So Ruda Cabana had an Al-Qaeda manual, book, whatever you want to call it. He had it, had possession of it. So if within that manual it taught Ruda Cabana or guided him, training manual, it guided him how to stab people. The surmising judge, the sentencing judge, said so in his summing up and sentencing. So the first question I asked you was, do you believe this was a terrorist incident? And it wasn't. It was, the majority was yes. And then I asked you if you believed that the handbook or the manual that he possessed was a terrorist handbook. And the majority, again, there's still 1 or 2 that are saying no. And we welcome all views on this channel. We're not just an echo chamber. I say this repeatedly. I want you to be honest in your opinion and you stand by what you think, because it allows us an adult conversation without the ne'er-do-wells in the Pink Palace getting into us for any reason whatsoever. So I will ask you again. Are you aware? Right. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Are you aware of what that manual, handbook, or pamphlet, or whatever you want to term it, are you aware of what it contains? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Richards, I believe it was a single person event, nothing terrorist, but by a misguided person who has... Wow. Interesting. So there's more 2s coming with that question. Please keep your votes coming. As I say, this is an adult conversation. We take both sides of the aisle and we learn from this. Because the organisations like Prevent and others, Merseyside Police, you know they're going to come out with those words. We've learned from this. No, you haven't. Social services. Oh, we've learned from this. How many times? Exactly. So there seems to be, thank you, Dreamer, there seems to be more 2s around the manual, the handbook, the propaganda that he held, had possession of. So, do we believe, again, we'll take another very quick vote. Do we believe, who's late? The wrong, Jackie Glasgow. Welcome to the body of the curve. We're getting into a very adult conversation, Jackie. Depends which side of the aisle you're going, but we're having an adult conversation. So, Okay, Terry, riddle me this. Does it tell you how to stab people? Does it tell you how to behead people? Okay. So what is the terrorist text that he followed? If it's not in the version of the book, we'll just call it the book. If it was the version of the book, how would he know how to do that? One little girl, one of the little girls that were murdered, had 122 stab wounds. Is that merely frenzied or strategic? English bottle cap says the Quran. Interesting take on that, English bottle cap. Why would you say that? And I'm not trying to trap you by any stretch of the imagination, in English bottle cap. You're the only one to say that so far. Some are saying it's not terrorism, it's madness, strategic, then frenzy from Rusty Mouse or Orkida. That's not terrorism, it's madness. Toka69 says terror strategy. But I have got various reference books. I'm not a scholar of the Quran, and I would like to know more. Napoleon Bonaparte says, "You're swaying me, Reverend." Wasn't his father a Rwandan warlord? English bottle cap. Decapitation was a standard method of capital punishment in the pre-modern Islamic law. Thank you, English bottle cap. I understand that in the Middle East, they were decapitating people that were going out there and working, people they thought were spies. Remember, again, a Scouser who went out there, I think it was a truck driver, went out there and got caught. Was it Iraq or was it Afghanistan? So when Afghanistan was at its height, that's what Jihadi John did. Thank you for that. I was trying to remember his name. Thank you, Kitty Roo. So we had on our nation's TVs and TV sets around the world, we had them beheading people. And wasn't Jihadi John, didn't they try to find him because of, and try him and jail him and do whatever because of what he did? But it was, I remember seeing it. And there was more than that. These beheadings. Of course, Kitty Roo. I'm so glad you're in the body of the Kirk this evening. Just helping me remember things. They bombed him with a drone. So let me see where you are with things. So we've worked out as a conversation amongst us that some people think it wasn't terrorism. Some people think that it was. Some people think that the Al-Qaeda handbook or whatever text it was wasn't a terrorist manual. Then what is it? It may be strategic. So what is it? And why did he? And the reason why I thanked English Bottle Cap was the military boys that watch this channel know what I'm intimating and know what I'm talking about. But there must have been, like Jihadi John, there must have been somewhere that made Alexis Ruda Cabana attempt beheading, because it's fact. And I say that with all reverence, empathy, compassion for the families. And I know the way the media works. What did Nick say? How does that evil get into the head of a 17-year-old without a dark influence? Younger than that. He took a knife and a hockey stick into school because he was going to have a word with somebody. The school. 10 times he went into school with a knife. Nature, not nurture. Oh, interesting, Jules D. But what I'm saying to you is, if the Islamists are beheading people, and we've got multiple examples of that since Afghanistan, and Ruda Cabana did that, who is it, or what is it, that's guiding them to do that? I know we're talking about very dark forces. Andrew James, my dad was backpacking in Afghanistan in the 60s and 70s. He remembers the record shops playing Western music like Jethro Tull and the Kinks, the girls wearing short skirts and tight-ish tops. That was possibly when Afghanistan and Iran, they had a very open... It wasn't until the Ayatollahs came in and started ruling stuff that they got very, very, very strict about what people could and couldn't do. I would like to think that this conversation can keep going over a period of time, because we're not being silly about it. We're not inciting anyone to do anything, but we are, as a community, trying to find answers to something or a situation or an event that we haven't got any answers to. And as the human condition always looks for answers. If you take HMP Manchester, where, from what I gather, he was that Ruda Cabana was transferred to this morning. Some very bad men did a very bad thing. But you would have thought that the prison system would know that. So from the Bad Wolf Project, direct quote from the book. He has to be willing to do the work and undergo martyrdom for the purpose of achieving the goal and destabilizing the religion of magic, and establishing the religion of majestic Allah on earth. It's a sad shame that we need to continue this conversation. There are certain communities in the UK currently that have not given their opinion on this. And I know this country collective is a tolerant nation. We have to be to undergo all of this. But we are a tolerant nation, even if the people that are supposed to be leading us are telling us that we're not. We know that we are, but we're angry. And that anger will make people do various things that may not be acceptable. But I think this needs to be an open conversation amongst everyone. There will be the angriest people on both sides of the aisle. There are more reasoned and measured people within the body of the Kirk this evening. But the reason why I love doing these lives is we can have this conversation and nobody kicks off. Because everybody's trying to find the same answer. And the answer is this, simply, how can we live together? Because if we have the indigenous populace of this sceptred isle being open and accommodating, and others that come into the country not so, and I'll give you an example. Back in 1999, 2000, when I was on Century 106 in the East Midlands, doing a lunchtime phone-in. I said at that point, the people coming into this island have knife crime as a de facto in their home country. So I said that knife crime will become commonplace. And look at where we are 20 years later, 25 years later. Friday, there were multiple examples of people being stabbed and or murdered. One in Sainsbury's, one in, I think it was Aldi, Birmingham. I don't know whether the mainstream media, the legacy media, was stopped from printing anything because apart from the young 12-year-old boy being murdered, and we're not going to talk about that case because someone has been arrested and charged, we have to have an adult conversation, and we need to have our leaders lead us, not manage us, lead us. And we need, the one thing that we don't have is we don't have politicians that have a vision. Yeah, thank you, Nigel. 4 stabbed outside Asda in Croydon. That was the one I was thinking about. And it makes everybody fractious and nervous and on their guard. People will move out of areas because of what's going on within them. Realistically, how do you reduce knife crime? What steps need to be taken? Well, firstly, this stupidity of a government, this government that is evidently quite stupid. They're saying, and we're all seeing through it, that's the problem. They can no longer give us something that they say, oh, we're dealing with it. So you need to have ID to buy a knife. You've got to be over 18. And they're saying if it's delivered to your door, you need to have ID. If I was a lunatic, I'd have it sent to me granny. I'd have it sent to a member of the family. Oh, just do this for me. I'm going on survival training. So I need blah, blah. And I'm not suggesting that you do this. Please don't think this. I'm just giving this as an example of how what they're doing isn't sufficient. And I know the Bibi Stockholm was there for the illegal immigrants, and then they spent tens of millions on it and then trashed it because they no longer needed it. But why aren't the governments, varying governments, actually, Johnny Ray says it's a red herring, building more prisons? Just stop it. We know that it's 2025. We know there's more violence. We know there's more crime. We know there's more criminal. Just stop and say, we are going to have a building plan of 20 years. And the governments that may follow us in 10 years, then please just continue with this because we need to get a grip of this. And a perfect Mark Mulvaney. Mark, just popping your cherry. You can get a knife from any kitchen drawer. I know. You don't need to order it off Amazon. And these clowns are saying, well, if you're going to order it online, then you're going to have ID when you order it, and you're going to have ID when it's delivered. If me granny was in her 80s and she's saying it's from my kitchen, you've got to feel sorry for chefs. Because if you walk around as a chef with your very sharp knives roll, imagine being stopped. It could be stopped at the point of a gun. But all you're doing is you're just going to work. Exactly, Stuart. It's what you do with the knife. It's not the knife that kills people, it's the person holding it. And please don't think that I'm not aware of the families. There's 3 little girls that were murdered. There were 8 attempt murders, and there were 2 adults also involved. So you're talking about 3 murders and 10 attempt murders. And what they're going through, I cannot even imagine. But I don't know why the press are not talking to them. Because in a situation like this, Have they had justice? Knowing the human condition, people just want to be heard. They want to be listened to be able to deal with it in whichever way they are dealing with the situation that they find themselves in. So I have every sympathy for the families and those involved. Because this is not, for those that live, it's not going to be easy for them. Thank you, Nicky. Good to see you in the body of the Kirk. So I don't think you and I can ever get to a place where we understand what these people are going through. We can't. And I don't want to labour this particular point, but I do feel for the families, everyone involved and their wider families and the wider communities. I am aware. I know Southport. I love Southport. I've been there thousands of times. In between Radio City in Liverpool, where I worked, and Rock FM in Preston, I was in Southport all the time. And I have some wonderful, wonderful friends in Southport. But I think what the leaders are hoping, the political classes, what they're hoping is that we get to a point where we'll forget about it. We'll just start to get on with our lives. But I think this is... I don't think there's anything we can do to come to terms with this. Just the passage of time. And that's what they are. That's what they're hoping for. But the press can't bury what's going on. Because you ask anybody from Liverpool, even about the 96, they'll never buy a copy of The Sun. Ever. Any Murdoch press, not interested in it. And if it comes out that, look, when it happened, I always look for the responses, because the responses should be natural, a bit like when Diana died and Tony Blair came out and kind of gave a speech to cameras. That was a natural thing. But when Sir Keir Starmer, well, Yvette Cooper pitched up with flowers, and I just didn't. It's as my ninja training tells me, it's the presence of the unusual in the usual. So Yvette Cooper pitching up with flowers, presence of the unusual in the usual. Politicians don't turn up with flowers. Has Charles been up to Southport? Has he buggery? And then the Prime Minister, the head politician in this country, turns up with flowers. And I'm sitting there going, presence of the unusual in the usual. Why? Why are they doing this? Kitty Roo, I completely agree with you. It was a cynical photo op. Nothing more, because they didn't do anything afterwards. They cried wolf and said, oh, we can't do anything because of subjudice. That's what they were talking about. Under a judge. But he wasn't charged. At the point they were laying the flowers, they knew what he'd done. They knew how he'd done it. The police had been into his family home. Where was the mother, by the way? Because from what we're being told in the press, she's a stay-at-home mother. We know the connections they've got with Rwanda. We know his father. Something just doesn't sit right. We both know it. We just know something doesn't sit right. Presence of the unusual in the usual. And that's, and people's instincts kind of go, hang on a second, not sure about this. And we may not get the facts. We may not know some background of what's going on. But 20th of August, 2024, King Charles expressed his sympathy and empathy for the people of Southport when he travelled to meet survivors of the knife attack that claimed the lives of 3 young girls. Did you see him? I saw him in his kilt for Burns night. Tomorrow, my birthday, is National Holocaust Day. He's going to Auschwitz. So if we look at this situation, there's photo ops galore, because in the propaganda 2025, you have to be seen to be doing certain things. Why haven't the families been heard? Why haven't the people of Southport been heard? Because being heard is the road to healing. And if you're not heard, you're not considered. Let's change the subject for a moment, because I know it's still raw. We've had a very honest discussion tonight with some fantastic comments, and I really do appreciate it. And as I've said many times before, as a phone-in presenter, this is the kind of moment where we need a phone-in. We are looking at it. We are looking at it again, but it was cost prohibitive last time. Thank you, Keith. Just want to go through a couple of more things. I'm going to round this off about 2 hours. But things to make you go, You know, Gen Z. We'll call Bonnie Blue Gen Z and Lily Phillips Gen Z. So she's been told that OnlyFans have said that Bonnie Blue can't use the footage from her train wreck. Why? In the small print, you can only have 1 or 2 non-members on your OnlyFans page in videos on the site. So all these people that she's been doing the dancing with don't count, can't do it. That's commonsensical. But other things to make you go, Thames Water. Keep an eye on Thames Water. It's about to enter government administration. So what I'm saying to you is, thank you, Alan. I'll read through the comments when I get a chance over the next couple of days, just to see what's been said and voted on and how people feel this evening, because that's just the right thing to do. So I will have a look. Thank you, Alan. Thames Water is about to enter government administration. What does that mean? It means that, the law states that when it goes bankrupt, its operation automatically returns to the government. So let's have a look at this. The government allow a company to run utilities, whether it's water, electric, gas, or whatever. They run the utility, and they start running it into the ground, not keeping the infrastructure updated, and allowing their shareholders to make a ton of money off the back of it. And then when it goes back into the control of the government, they just walk off into the sunset. There's not just a couple of bob here at stake. There are hundreds of millions, if not billions, at stake. Now, Thames Water is £18.18 billion in debt. So if Labour and the government take it back into their ownership, they have to wipe out £18 billion worth of debt. Now, from where I sit, that's corrupt. So you run a company so badly, there's 18 billion in debt, yet all your shareholders get their profit. People working within the company get all their bonuses and profit. But the company's £18 billion in debt. Thank you, Fred. If we nationalise Thames Water, we've got to take the debt on. And it's not the government, it's me and you. I don't pay £18 billion in taxes to be able to afford this. We can't, as a country, afford this. If we can't afford £1.5 billion to look after the pensioners, to keep them warm through winter, we shouldn't be paying. If it's renationalised, we shouldn't pay the £18 billion in debt. I'll tell you what we should do. Get all the people that were running the company back in prison and say, right, until you've turned 18 billion debt into a profit for a renationalised company, you're staying in jail for the rest of your bloody lives because you crooked. Crooked. Every single director and decision maker should not be allowed to run a company, should not be allowed to make any kind of profit ever again, because Derek Tomlinson says it's a classic private sector state ownership procedure. Shareholders take out the money, pay for their mates, and the taxpayer foots the bill. I know. It's happened ad nauseum. But now we need to stop. This is 2025. Jail them and sell off their assets. So the nice big houses that they've got, the fancy cars, proceeds of crime. If it's corruption, it's proceeds of crime. So just say to them, thank you very much. You tried to make a good fist of it, but you didn't really. So there's a hotel room with the asylum seekers. You can go in there. We'll give it to you for free, but we're selling your house off. How much is it worth? Yeah, exactly. Right. We're selling it off. Your cars, your watches, the proceeds of crime, everything you've got, we're selling it off. 98% of the shareholders don't even live in the UK. Ofwat Chief Executive Officer Catherine Ross should be held accountable. Everybody involved in this tawdry, corrupt situation should be prosecuted. Sack and hold them accountable. Now, in my view, and it's just a personal view, the shareholders are actually defrauding the British people out of money. And all foreign shareholders need stripping. Only people who can hold shares should be the British taxpayer. If you're paying tax in this country, you can have shares. If not, you can't. Let's go to Trump again, because there's loads to talk about him. But he's officially suspended military aid to Ukraine. So within 24 hours, and again, I tell you, you've got to watch the timing of everything. So he suspends military aid to Ukraine, and then within 24 hours, Sniffy Zelensky announces an audit into military aid from America. Exactly. He's not going to get any more, because they all know money laundering through Ukraine. We know that President Brown Trousers, the Biden OCG, got 90 odd million in kickbacks from Ukraine. Nice work if you can get it. And you can only get it if you're the president. But Trump's come out and gone, no, right, we'll stop this. Had enough. We're going to make America great again. We're $36 trillion in debt. So it's a loan. Sniffy, give us it back. And it's come out today that President Trump, doesn't want anyone named Miliband, that's Ed or David, as American envoy. Now, David's been keeping his head down in America. He's been living in America for, is it nearly 20 years? And he's been working with a charity in America. But Trump is so, he doesn't want, he stopped net zero. He stopped the green thing, the green scam, as he calls it. But anybody named Miliband, they can Foxtrot Oscar. I'm just loving this. But is Elon Musk on his way out? As I said a little earlier, Vivek Ramaswamy is, well, he's not standing for it. Do you want me to give you a little background to what people haven't worked out. We'll get to Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds in a moment, because that is going to be Amber Heard 2.0. It's going nuts. But I've got a story to tell you. But here's the WEF and Davos this week. Do you know that that David Beckham seemingly is going to build bridges between Donald Trump and the Labour government? What would David Beckham be doing that for? According to the newspapers today, Starmer should use Beckham for a charm offensive to score with Trump. And Sir Keir Starmer's approval rating is at an all-time low, minus 35. Minus 35. So as I said earlier, Labour are losing power. So who's going to take over? Because the people in the shadows that don't want to lose the power, the real power, the soft power in the background, in the shadows, they don't want to lose that. So who's taking over from Starmer? Is it going to be Robert Reeves, Rachel from Accounts? Is it going to be Ginger Growler? Because she's never anywhere, is she, Ginger Growler? She never puts her head above the parapet. Might be bobbing, but she never puts her head above the parapet. So who will take over? Rachel from Complaints. Now, she's been away this week with the communists in Davos. Because, as I say, last January, there was loads of complaints saying there was too many Chinese in Davos for WEF. So she's been away with a begging bowl. I understand that there's £5 billion worth of Bitcoin that seemingly they've seized from organised crime. Oh, so she's been in Davos all week. And now the newspapers are saying, oh, she's got an extra 5 billion of Bitcoin. Cash it in quick. So why am I mentioning WEF? Why am I mentioning David Beckham? Because if you didn't see it, and I do a lot of this so you don't have to, if you didn't see it, Gary Neville was in Davos. A football pundit in Davos. And literally somebody kind of, well, I call it doorstepping, but he just stuck a microphone under his face going, are you a famous footballer? Yeah, Manchester United. What you here for? Oh, I'm meeting her. Behave, Gary. I'm too old a cat to be fucked by a kitten, mate. He was there for Beckham, his best mate. Oh, why was Beckham in at WEF and Davos? Because Beckham, every year, they give a couple of people, only less than a handful of people, recognition. David Beckham was given a crystal prize, so to speak, was given a crystal award. That's definitely more like it. He was given one of 3 people. He was given a crystal award. And Gary Neville, I will be sure as a pound to a penny bet, he was there to... Beckham had some of his team, but let me ask you a question. What would David Beckham be in Davos and attending the World Economic Forum for? And then Starmer's being told, use David Beckham as a bridge builder with the Donald. And all of a sudden, Starmer and Donald are kissing and making up. But Donald has said, well, look, he's got a difference of opinion. What he believes in is not necessarily what I believe in. So I think Keir Starmer, what he lacked, what condition does he suffer from? Is he autistic? Because every time you see him, I'll put my glasses on for effect. Every time you see Starmer, it's... And there's never any emotion. He must suffer from something. Well, he has it. We suffer from it. I don't think that Starmer knows how to be human, in my view and from my observations. The ups and downs. the ins and outs, emotions, feelings, life, stuff. But today, bizarrely, they've put Rachel from accounts front and centre. Can't say a bloody thing. They've put Rachel from accounts front and centre. There's loads of newspaper reportage today they're talking about Bitcoin, they're talking about stuff. They're not talking about how to stop knife crime, are they? They're not telling us at the point he laid those flowers, and Yvette Cooper, they will have known, because you have to manage up the way as well as down the way. So those in the Wogarati, the police forces, and the intelligence services will have been crapping themselves and managing up the way. So at which point did Sir Keir Starmer know about this kid and Yvette Cooper? Because those questions need to be asked. And never mind the inquiry, just tell us. Honestly, Wednesday, PMQs, just tell us. I know nothing if you're from Barcelona. But the Labour Party know that Starmer is toxic. They know. Even the best marketing team can't polish that particular turd. Lift the veil, Prime Minister, and tell us who you are. Show us who you are. Be human, do human, have human. And if we don't like him, well, that's not his fault. He just is what he is. He is extremely unlikable, and we have been duped. 1 voter in 10 says Labour is doing a good job. That's 9 people out of 10 saying they're not doing a good job. I'm going to ask you this question very quickly. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Is the British economy doing well? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Let's see how sharp you are, you Romans. As Terry Wookfit says, Porton Down would have had a look at what was in. I mean, the family couldn't have known about the ricin. They couldn't have done. 1 for yes, 2 for no. All twos. Oh, well, a couple of. Michelle Gooder, I think you're a newbie. Pop your cherry for you. Well, this poll was done earlier, and when they asked, it's probably about the same, is the British economy doing well? No's were 82%, reflected in the poll that we're taking now. And another part of the poll, should 16-year-olds be given the vote? 54% said no, and only 38% said yes. It's interesting how you're reflecting the nation quite accurately. And they asked the question who they believed was effective opposition. Nigel Farage, 26%. The only answer that beat Farage was don't know, 27%. So Rachel from Accounts is saying and urging online platforms to remove violent content. You know what's coming, don't you? They're going to squeeze it. They're going to squeeze the online. As someone told me the other day, walled garden. That's where the ISPs, your internet service provider, will allow you to access whatever is in that walled garden, but nothing outside of it. Maybe they should have thought about that before Southport. So, Axel Ruda Cabana, Rachel from Accounts wants violent content taken offline to prevent further attacks. She's written to X, Meta, Google, YouTube, TikTok. It's not the online violence, I would hazard. It's the radicalization of someone that creates this. And remember, online safety bill. Kemi Badenoch reckons lack of integration contributed to Southport. Very interesting take. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. simply because I could do the Blake Lively, but it might take me another 20 minutes or so. So thank you for indulging me this evening. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, your indulgence. Birthday boy tomorrow, so I'm just going to take it nice and easy. There will be stuff coming, obviously. But if you'll allow me, I just want to enjoy the day and enjoy whatever's coming, so to speak. Thank you to everyone for your very kind words. There's lots that I wanted to talk about tonight, but we've done 2 hours, and I believe that this what we do on a Sunday and Wednesday, if that's the right phrasing, is some of it's very, very important. And talking about it tonight, I hope that's given you some kind of closure, some kind of understanding and context around things. And politicians are going to lie. I've said to you a million times. How do you know when a politician's lying? Their lips move. So just take them with a pinch of salt. He's not going to last very long. I think they're going to have a procession of Labour politicians that might try and take over, like Wes Streeting talking to the Fabian Society today. Oof, that's not a picture I would have put in the press, Wes. But is it Ginger Growler? Is it Rachel from Accounts? Is it Lammy? Lammy can't meet. He just can't meet the Trump. Just as a little aside, for the next couple of days, if you look into the night sky, if it's clear where you are, you will see a procession of 6 planets all in a row with the moon. So if it's not chucking it down, I might go out and have a look. It's all your usual suspects of planets, and they're all in a procession in a line with the moon. Pretty special. So look after yourself, be safe, and I'll try my best over the next 10 days or so while I'm away, just to keep you involved and keep you... I'll just try and keep you entertained and engaged, as the actress said to the bishop. And whatever you do, wherever you go, as I say, be safe, be well, and make sure that you leave the body of the Kirk in a half decent, because I don't want those choir boys or the bishop handing any more of that French honey thingy. Nigel says, will one of them be your Uranus? I'm not doing that on camera. Got arrested last time. Joking. But thank you for everything this evening. Whatever you do, wherever you go, don't forget the Bamberg, man.